Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. I do apologise for the wind noise, viewers. The location that we were going to actually film this car in hasn't worked out for us, so we're having to film it in a supermarket car park on top of the hill. But anyway, this is a 2007 Renault Laguna 2, 2-litre Dynamique Sport Tourer with an automatic gearbox. Quite possibly one of the strangest sort of configurations for one of the strangest French cars of the early 2000s, and there were stranger ones and most of them were Renaults. These cars are not very common anymore. They're really not something that you see very often. I do apologise for the lighting, that's just the way it goes. Weirdly, this car is actually a Renault X fleet car or press car. It's actually still got the original plate on it at the back, which is amazing. 475 litres of space in this Sport Tourer version. Sorry, Sport Tourer, not Sports Tourer, Sport Tourer. Put the camera in there, get rid of that streak of light. The low floor is really sort of convenient. Many of you will maybe be familiar with the Petrol blog channel, and I can't remember the name of the gentleman who runs that, but he actually bought one of these several years ago for £100. This one I think is in better condition than his, although it does have one or two little quirks and features, as Dr. Muro would say. Like that. If you have the key in your pocket and you walk away from the car, it just locks itself. And it is actually possible to lock the key in the car very easily. So I've got it in my pocket at all times. I was told by Alex, who owns this car, that that's what you need to do. I think the lines of this car are actually quite handsome. I don't think it looks bad at all. This is a facelift car. The facelift came in about 2005, so this is a really late one. The last one I think were on a 57 plate, so very late one. You just don't see them. It's a combination of the fact that they do rust. This one I don't think has any rust on it at all, which is pretty good. They're just not worth a lot of money. The second-hand values of these are quite low, and people just didn't want these. They wanted, I don't know, like a Mondeo or a Vectra or something else. They were just scared of all these funny electronic things, and I don't blame them, because I'm a little bit scared of those too, viewers. Just a little bit scared of them. So just get in this side for now. Just keep the camera pointed down because of the lighting here. My secret mission documents unfortunately are not with me, but oh gosh, no. They wouldn't even fit in there anyway, so you know, there's no point in me even trying. The manual has to sit in the side here because it doesn't fit in the glove box. It's one of these things where they just, at the time, thought that it was a great idea to not move the fuse box for right-hand drive versions of French cars. You'll note that there's something wrong with the windscreen. That will be fixed. Also, there was this obsession at the time for this kind of softer feel plastic, but unfortunately this kind of coating, it just sort of wears off and feels absolutely horrible. The Felix Stilo multi-wagon that I filmed a couple of years ago, that also had this. I think you could get a sort of different type of radio, which is why this Dynamique, which was the base model for the Sport Tourer at the time, I think, only has a little sort of storage position for it. There is the radio. It's got a CD player. I don't know if it's got an aux in. I'm not sure about that. Expert. What kind of expert would that be? An expert on Lagunas? There's not many of those people around anymore. Central display there. Now on a sort of posher model, there was sat nav available for these. That would probably look a little bit sort of. Let's see if actually that comes on, because I can operate this from here. There we go. Right. So if I turn the radio on, does that come on? Do I have to press it again? No, that's off. What's going on, viewers? Is that display broken? I mean, it's telling me the oil's okay and everything. Oil is fine. Do we get a radio? No. I was warned about these cars and the electronics in them, and looks like something has occurred. Oh well. Amazing sort of level of equipment for a base model. We've got no parking sensors on the back, but dual zone climate control, keyless entry and start. There is the start button. Cruise control is just here. The door locking button is in a weird place, like it was on the Renault 21, which is a distant ancestor to this. At least the switches are in a sort of normal place. I'm not going to touch the sunroof, viewers, because I don't trust sunroofs on old cars. There's you know, a lot of people are like that with those sort of things, and one of them is me. SRP, because we're in a Renault. It's a nice steering wheel, actually. It's leather and everything like that. So you know, all of these were quite well equipped. There weren't the sort of base models available on the Sport Tourer like there were on the standard hatchback, and you couldn't get the 1.6 engine either. Right, let's just move around the front so we can take a look at this facelifted styling, which I think is actually better than. Oh, it's locked itself again. I think it's actually better than the earlier version. So, some people liked the fact that there was like a sort of chrome strip at top of here, but I just prefer the look of this for some reason. I don't know why. It looks a bit like a Safran, actually. If anyone's got a Renault Safran they'd like me to review on the channel, then I would appreciate it, because I do like those. Just open the door again, we just press that. Again, we can point this camera down so we don't get too much in the way of that sort of thing happening. Right, there we go. It's got white dials, this. So if I press the button, press brake to start. Well, maybe if I press this, the radio will actually come on. Right, oil okay, test control system. The door's open. Right, is this... Are we going to get the radio now? No. Must be busted. Wow. Okay, let's switch that off again for a second. We don't want to waste fuel, which is expensive. Please remove the card. Put the card in my pocket. What? Oh. Calmez-vous. Calmez-vous, monsieur. Calmez-vous. Just slip into my French degree there. Right, oh dear, I've just noticed as well on the dash. If I point this down, there we go. You can just about see if the light doesn't stop. Look at that. Oh, dear me. Right, let's have a look at these. Ooh, there's little things here and little lights that don't work, and the sunroof is huge. Look at the size of this. I'll just move the cover so you can see. It's absolutely vast. Material's not bad. The seat's quite comfortable. It feels like a big sort of comfy cruiser thing. To see if there's much room in the back. Let's have a look. Okay. I think this was one of the first cars in the world to come with 8 airbags. Oh dear me. That's not good. The headroom is really poor. I mean, the legroom's fine. I mean, Alex is reasonably tall, and I'll just point it down again. Legroom's absolutely fine, it's just the headroom. It can't be helped with the sunroof. My head's right up against the roof. That's, for an estate car, that is unusual, really. Let's have a look at the rear door pockets. This is the Dynamique, so no leather or anything. I mean, it's not bad. Even that feels quite nice, to be honest. It's a lot nicer than a lot of the sort of Renaults were in the 90s, that's for sure. And of course, if you watch the petrol blog video on his Laguna Sport Tourer, you'll notice he goes on about the fact that a lot of these lights there don't work. We do like this kind of thing, though, viewers. We like these sort of things, especially when they work. Matte pocket on the back. There's an ashtray there, yes. 12-volt socket in the rear, that's very forward thinking. That's a nice big armrest here. Do we get cup holders in here? Yes, we do. We do get cup holders in here too. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, I lived in France for some time, viewers, and there are tall people who live there, as many of you will know. But this isn't designed for them. I don't know why the rear headroom is so bad. I mean, we've even got little things here, like little lights that come on to sort of help you read maps and things. But the sunroof assembly goes right down into here. Right, let's have a look at the engine whilst we're here. So here is it's a Renault F-Type engine. It's one of the last of the Renault F-Types. A 16-valve 2-litre unit generating in this application around 135 brake horsepower. It actually looks reasonably easy to work on. I can see the oil filters just there. Got to just put your hand in there just to get to it. But I mean, the dipsticks there anyway, so it's not the end of the world. That's the automatic transmission fluid there, because this is an auto. I must get my things right, otherwise I shall be murdered in the comments section. Ooh, I'm glad I put that in there. It is a bit windy today, viewers. That oil filler cap looks very familiar. Coolant reservoir is interesting. That's maximum and mini seem to be at the same level or something. How very, very, very strange. Yeah, that is interesting. See if we can find the actual dipstick as opposed to the automatic transmission one. Well, it's somewhere, viewers. I don't think that is ever work, because the gearbox is down there, so that can't be the one for the engine. It looks in pretty good condition under here. It looks all okay. It's just typically kind of a bit weird and French, but then that's what these cars were. First thing that comes to mind when driving this car is just how smooth everything is. I mean, the engine's really nothing special particularly. It's a very sort of standard unit for the era, but this gearbox feels smooth enough. It's not a CVT or anything. It's a standard auto, which was always my sort of preference. Unlike a lot of other cars of this time, they weren't going for a kind of a sporty feel in this. It's nothing like it would have been in something like a BMW or something like that. Not aimed at the same market, of course, at all. It's more aimed at someone who would just want the latest technology, and certainly that's what they got. Although reputation for these cars being somewhat troublesome is unfortunately well earned, and we can't get away from that when talking about one of these. The engine's available in a Mark II Renault Laguna, or a 1.6, which is only available in the hatchback. That's the old Renault K-type engine that was actually used in the Dacia Duster, for example, until I think about 2016 or something crazy like that. Then there were versions of this F-type engine. There's a 1.8 litre, which is only available in pre-facelift cars, with 122 horsepower. Then the 2 litres, this is the normally aspirated one, a 16-valve unit with 135 horsepower. Then there were some 2-litre turbo engines, which do sound quite exciting actually. There was the pre-facelift one that was 165 horsepower, post-facelift 117, and the GT model that was up to 205 horsepower. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. With the roads that we're using today, we're in the sort of Poole and Bournemouth area. The car does actually feel quite well damped. It's not the sportiest feeling car I've ever driven, and I don't think that was really what the aim of it was going to be, as I've already said. The driving position is pretty good. I don't particularly like this funny handbrake thing they've got here. It's an auto anyway, so you don't really need to use the handbrake most of the time, but the car helpfully puts that on for you every time you stop anyway, so you have to release it manually, which is a bit of a pain. I just prefer a normal handbrake. It's rather like with the keyless entry stuff, which, yeah, it's not like sort of modern systems, although I don't think anybody's going to be kind of scanning for a signal from your 2007 Laguna these days, so I think you're safe from that point of view. I think the pre-facelift ones of these in this country actually didn't have the option for the completely keyless system like this has. They had more of the fact that you just plugged the key card into the hole in the dash, which you've already seen, which is maybe better for some people. I don't really know. It certainly it would not have the same problem as this has. If you walk away from the car, it just locks regardless of whether the key's actually on your person or not, which is why I'm very, very careful to keep hold of it. The trim levels available in the Mark II Laguna were authentique, that was only available on the hatchback pre-facelift. Then there was Dynamique, like this one, Dynamique Techno, which would have had maybe sat-nav in it. Then we get to the really nice ones, things like the Expression, the Privilège, and the Initial, which was right at the top of the range. There was actually a V6 available for the Mark II Laguna, and that was the same V6 that was in the Peugeot 406 V6 Coupe that I filmed last year for Sensible Secondhand Classics, and also the 406 V6 Saloon that I filmed for No Budget Reviews, actually in this area as well, in about October 2020. 210 horsepower, absolutely amazing. You didn't get a manual gearbox with the V6 Lagunas though, you only got an auto. I don't think I'm not sure if it was this auto or a different one, because obviously there's a lot more power in the V6, a lot more torque as well. They sound great, those engines. Obviously they're incredibly expensive to service, but they are pretty good. If it were me, of course, I'd be wanting the Initial with the the V6 engine, because that's the sort of person that I am. Well, viewers, the mountain is in the way because it's No Budget Reviews, and that's just the way that it goes. Gearbox is sort of flaring a bit. I think I might have to put it in the manual mode or something. There we go, put it in the manual mode and calm it down a bit. So not the best on hills, clearly, for a bit of engine braking. Yeah, it's a very nice, comfortable car. I don't know why I can't get this screen to work down here. Who knows? Just wish it had a nice sort of sonorous V6 under the bonnet, really. But this engine's fine. It just doesn't sound particularly good. It's just a bit average, really. But you know, it's just not a 1.6 or 1.8. The 1.8 had so little torque in it that if you bought the automatic version, you actually lost about 3 or 4 horsepower. So if you are going to buy a Laguna 2 with a 1.6 or 1.8 engine, obviously there's probably not many around anyway, then I'd recommend just sticking with a manual gearbox. But yeah, just in terms of just sort of pottering around and going to work, and this is mainly what Alex uses this car for, it's absolutely fine. It's actually been quite reliable for him. The F-type engines, I think, are a cam belt engine, so just make sure that you have that done on a regular basis, and make sure you service it regularly. This car's only done 89,000 miles. It's actually not that high for a 2007. But you then just hope none of the electronics break. This car cost well under £1,000 as well. We're clearly within no budget reviews territory with this, and I think this looks quite nice. I think the colour's very nice. It is very comfortable. You do obviously have a lot of areas to watch for in terms of the electronics in particular, and I have confirmed with Alex that this car is an electronic dipstick, which is why I kept saying oil okay. There is no dipstick at all in the conventional sense. That's only one for the automatic transmission, and that's why I couldn't find it. It's not entirely me being an idiot. Obviously that wouldn't be a surprise to anybody if that was the case. But it's got the steering wheel controls. You know, these have been on Renaults for forever. I think the Renault 11 was the first to have them, and you can still find them on Renault derivative models now. So, you know, if you're used to having these, then it would be good. I mean, my grandfather had a lot of family who were French, and, you know, one of the reasons I did a French degree but myself, but because you know, a lot of the family lived over there, and I have spent some time living in France, and people love their Renaults over there. But this sort of car doesn't exist anymore. Renault don't make a model in this segment when there were quite low sales in particular models in 2012. Renault withdrew the Wind, the Modus, the Laguna and the Espat all at once, and the third generation Laguna was a casualty of that. And I really want to drive a third generation Renault Laguna V6 coupe. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I mean, the chances of finding one of those is minimal, but I don't know, I just have this sort of obsession, like a lot of people do, with slightly weird French cars. I mean, this is a bit of an eccentric one, but the Velsatis and the Aventime, or Aventime, depending on how you want to say it, were even more eccentric than this. And when they really sort of let themselves go at Renault at the time, this is the kind of thing they came up with. And it's good to see something like this, actually, which was a sort of brave marketing decision as opposed to just the sort of plain ordinary stuff a lot of other manufacturers were making at the time. Right, I think it's time for me to park up and come to some sort of conclusion. So viewers, the Renault Laguna 2, one of the most notoriously unreliable cars of the last 20 years. Is this something that you should consider with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, I don't know. It really depends on what your point of view is. I mean, as a very comfy cruiser, it's really good. I mean, obviously the rear seats are a bit of a problem if you've got anybody who's quite tall. That might be a problem in terms of the headroom. But it's actually quite nice to drive. There's nothing particularly exciting about it, but if you just literally go up and down motorways, this would be absolutely fine. The fuel consumption is nothing to write home about, but of course we don't talk about diesels on this channel, so there's nothing we can really do about that. They're very rare though. There's not many around because a lot of garages, and those of you who've seen a petrol blog video on his car, and also visitors to the Honest Job website, will know that many dealers would not take these cars in part exchange because they were renowned for being problematic. Obviously, if you service this car, if you haven't got problems with the electronics and you change the cam belt in the engine at the specified intervals, it should actually be okay. But because they're so cheap at the moment, and I don't really see particularly soon the prices rising high, then you could buy one of these for under £1,000 and just keep running it as like a Bang-O-Nomics car. And if the electronics do play up or something like that, then you can just get rid of it. And with scrap metal prices being relatively high at the moment, you wouldn't lose too much money. So if you want a nice sort of wafty car, particularly if you've got a nice V6 or 2-litre turbo, then that might be a good option for you. I think it's a bit too much of a risk for me, despite my sort of part French heritage. I think I prefer to buy something slightly more solid, but United BMW, that's not really me either. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Thank you again to Alex for supplying this very unusual car. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below. If you wish to become a channel member, there's a join button down there. Don't feel any obligation, of course, to do that. And we'll be back soon for more inexpensive motoring.